Coming at you straight from the IAB MIXX Conference, the first day of Advertising Week 2011. I'm here with Chris Anderson, the curator of TED. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Julie.
So you just wowed the crowd in the MIXX audience with your incredible presentation on the power of ideas and storytelling and the challenge to the industry to improve online advertising. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, at TED, our mission is ideas worth spreading. We live in that world, and I'm personally have become just obsessed with the power of ideas and how weird it is that these little things that live as a little tiny pattern of neurons firing in someone's brain can not only spread from one brain to another, but can kind of shape the behavior of the new brain, including to do things like to spread the idea. And it's just incredible how that happens, how fast it can happen. In the internet age, obviously it can happen at the speed of light, going across the world. And one of the things I talked about today was the strange analogy that has with how certain parasites behave. I mean, parasites are scary things, but there are parasites that hijack an organism's brain and persuades it to do stuff. Ideas do that, but in a way that we actually like. And so the puzzle for me is, given the power of ideas to actually reshape someone's mindset and change how they think of the world, forever, if you like, shape their behavior forever, what could advertising do to tap into that more deeply? Traditionally, a lot of advertising has operated on it's been a very sophisticated way of seducing, of persuading people to respond to impulses. It goes to a place of desire, but not to a place of reshaping a mindset. And desire works short term, and it works when there's not a lot of clutter and not a lot of competition. It's not clear that desire works in the long term, and when there's clutter, the experience of a lot of companies is that it's getting harder and harder to do the traditional types of things that advertisers have done, because there's distrust over all this incoming stimulus, that it's not seen as necessarily authentic or genuine. So what could we do about that? And the hope is that ideas could play a role here, that if companies could dream about what their big ideas are that they would really like to share with the world and find a way of sharing it, that could be big.
Yes, and how can technology help enable that conversation?
Well, one key thing is that online, we're no longer victims to this tyranny of time. We in the traditional television era, there was one timeline you had to fit into it, which meant that at most you could afford maybe 30 seconds of the mass audience's time. Online, you can have one pipe connecting you and your message to one individual, and that pipe can pump as much data as you like, so long as you are holding their attention. So that is really worth thinking about, and it's worth both from the point of view of the advertiser and for media owners. Media owners should not necessarily be charging, per minute, for example, because the minutes are actually infinite. What's not infinite is people's attention. So I think the rules are completely different online.
Yes, and TED has really proven that with your 18-minute talks being aired online. I think you just celebrated 500 million views of 1,000 different talks. That 18-minute model, it seems so counterintuitive that people would engage for that long online. What have you learned through that whole putting it online process?
Yes, those talks could never have worked in the TV era because there are too many moments when someone would click away. They work online because they come in a context of recommendation. Basically, someone emails you saying, you have to watch this talk. And so you pick it up and you do. And so the question is, what's the equivalent of that in advertising? How could an advertiser get a reputation for producing films that, even though longer than traditional ads, were killer interesting? Killer interesting. They gave a real benefit to the viewer. That's what we want to partner with people to try and help figure out an answer to that question.
I see. So you're looking for ads and branded experiences that are as compelling as your TED Talks?
Well, and more compelling than some of our talks. They're not all great, by the way. But but yes, but that ads, for want of a better word, that can afford to take as long as they need to really develop a powerful idea. I mean, look, companies out there are spending billions of dollars in the most amazing research. There's all kinds of incredible stuff happening out there that is hard to articulate in a short period of time. If people knew some of the thinking that was going on inside companies, how they see the world, how they see the future, I think people would be really excited by that. I think it would change how they think of that company. It would actually be a gift to the world for corporations to let out some of that innovation out there. And we're in an age where being generous with ideas pays off. You give it away online, these things fly around the web, it boosts your reputation in a beautiful way, and it changes how people think of you.
Yes. So if there was one headline from the last year in Interactive, what you've been learning at TED, what would it be? What surprised you in the last year?
Well, that's a very difficult question to give an instant answer to. I don't think there is one headline. I think every day there's another little miracle. I think the world of ideas is getting more interesting as we go into the future. A lot of things in life, there's a big law of diminishing returns. You get excited the first time you see it, then you get less excited. And I think advertising as a whole is facing that kind of problem. It's the strawberry ice cream problem of first taste yummy, fourth taste I'm bored. Ideas are different. The edifice of knowledge gets more interesting. The more you know, the more curious you get, the more you want to know. If companies can find a way of tapping into that, I think they can get past the trap that some of them are in of not being able to really connect with their audiences in an authentic way. That's the hope.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we bring it back to the MIXX stage. Thank you so much.